Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Carpe Dumbbell. Today, we're going to be talking about fasting. Now, fasting either is the most amazing thing ever discovered by the human race, and it's the new fountain of youth, just like creatine, or it does literally nothing and is a waste of time, and you might as well just be fat and eat everything. Obviously, that's a joke. Fasting is a little bit of both. We're going to talk about what fasting is, why it works in some cases. We're going to talk about the myths, what things break your fast, and we're going to talk about why I do a little bit of fasting. This is video number 2. Hopefully it doesn't suck too much. My creatine video was pretty bad. We're going to try and keep getting better over these videos. But like I keep saying, I do it for the love of the game, and that's it. So let's get into it. So what is fasting? Fasting, in simple terms, is basically deciding not to eat for a window of time. There are different types of fasting. The main, most common type of fasting is time restricted eating. You may have heard of like 16:8 or 18:6, where you have this like set window during your day to eat. There's also alternate day fasting. This is where you'll eat one day, then not eat the next, and then go back and forth. And then you've probably heard of the extended or prolonged fasting, 24 hours plus, multi day, the 7-day bone broth shit that you see a lot of people do. I've never done that. I know someone who has done a 2-day fast and he said it was pretty good. I've also heard people say that you got to fast for like 3 days to really get that autophagy where your cells eat each other and it helps clean up your body. But in this video, we're going to talk about time restricted 16:8 and 18:6. So 16 hours of not eating and 8 hours of eating in that window. So let's talk about the physiological timeline of fasting. But before that, let's talk about insulin real quick. Insulin is the hormone produced by your pancreas that takes sugar out of your blood and puts it into your cells. So when you eat, your body releases insulin because you just ate food, and that food, sugar, right, glucose goes into your blood, and the way to get that sugar out of your blood is insulin. So you eat and your insulin levels go up. So 0 to 4 hours after eating, your body is digesting the food you just ate, right? It's using glucose from your last meal for energy. Your insulin levels are up, right? Because you eat, your insulin goes up. And after about 4 to 8 hours, your insulin levels will start to drop. You have been using your glucose from your last meal. So as your glucose drops, your body needs less insulin to be in your body, right? Because insulin pulls sugar from your blood into cells. And then after about 12 hours, your body starts shifting toward using fat for fuel more. And at around 16 hours, this is where a lot of people like to talk about the metabolic switch. And that metabolic switch is where your body is starting to use fat for fuel entirely, right? Because you already used all the glucose from your last meal and your insulin levels are back to normal. You're at your fasting insulin levels, and now your body needs an energy source, so it looks to fat for that fuel. And then after 20-ish hours, 20 to 24 hours, autophagy kicks in or it starts increasing. Autophagy is always going on, but after about 20 to 24 hours, autophagy really starts to increase. And that's the process where cells are cleaned out and damaged components and other waste are cleaned out or recycled. And this is where a lot of the fasting claims hang on. Like when I talked about the multi-day, 2 to 3 to 7 day fast where autophagy really is working and is really happening at a high rate in your body. That's where a lot of the fasting claims come from, is that autophagy, and some blood sugar things too that we'll also talk about. Okay, an important caveat I should probably bring up is most of this autophagy research showing these dramatic effects is done in mice, and it often uses fasting windows that are pretty well beyond what casual fasters do, but the human evidence is real, right? Or this video would not exist. So, the pros. What is the bull argument for fasting? The number one biggest bull argument I hear for fasting and that I've read about is the simplicity for calorie control. So, time restricted eating doesn't magically burn fat, but if you shrink the window naturally and where you can eat, theoretically, right, you'll have less time to eat, and therefore that's less food, therefore less calories, therefore more likely to lose weight. this is the most consistently reproduced benefit in human trials by a pretty good chunk. Pro number 2 is the insulin sensitivity improvements. There has been multiple human studies that actually show modest improvements in insulin sensitivity with time restricted eating, independent of weight loss in some cases. And especially at a young age, insulin sensitivity, I feel like, is so not misunderstood, but not talked about enough. A lot of these really bad chronic diseases like heart disease and diabetes, a lot of that stuff starts to develop, in your early 20s, right? And your 30s and your 40s. These diseases don't just magically appear out of nowhere in your 50s, 60s, 70s. A lot of it happens now. So if we can try and control and improve our insulin sensitivity from a young age, we theoretically set ourselves up for a better future where we're less likely to get diabetes, which is one of the most common metabolic diseases in the world and one of the most common diseases just in general. So if we can improve our insulin sensitivity from a young age or anywhere in life, right, we lower our risk for diabetes. Pro number 3 is the convenience and adherence for some people. If you just take eating or your time slot for eating and just simplify it and say, well, I'll skip breakfast and not eat till noon. It's easier to some people to stick to that rather than count calories or count macros. And, in order to be successful with weight loss or your goals, you don't always have to be really nitty gritty about it. You can keep it simple. I'm a believer in keeping things easy and simple. And this is actually the type of fasting I do. I just skip breakfast and I don't eat until around noon or after I get home from the gym, which can be anywhere from like 11:30 to 1, and that's all I'll eat my first meal. And it helps me just keep my diet and my nutrition just so much more simpler because I'm not worried about tracking my breakfast calories or anything like that. I just go, oh, I won't eat till noon. It's kind of like idiot maxing. Okay, now for the cons of fasting. What's the bear argument for fasting? Why should you avoid fasting like it's the plague or it's your mother in law? So, one of the biggest cons I have read for fasting is if you decrease the window where you eat, there's the potential you could eat less protein and that can increase your risk for muscle loss. I would say this only matters if you are worried about getting absolutely yoked like Sam Sulek. But if you're not and you just eat a more protein focused diet, I think this con can be kind of written off personally. But I'm not a doctor and I'm not a nutritionist. So, con number 2, it's not clearly superior to regular calorie restriction, right? So, if you want to lose weight, I would focus more on obviously working out, at least 2 to 3 days a week, getting your steps, trying to eat healthier. But most importantly, that calorie restriction, right? There's been no major studies to say that fasting is better for fat loss over a normal calorie restriction. So if you are really worried about losing weight and that's like your main goal, you can do fasting and like skip breakfast. So you're just eating less calories overall. But if you want to focus on losing weight, your standard regular calorie restriction is going to be the gold standard. And you can eat breakfast during that if you want. If you're a big breakfast guy like me, just eat the breakfast or eat your dinner, whatever. Eat less calories, right? Keep it simple. Con number 3, fasting can be an issue for people that have eating disorders or mental health issues. And it can also cause some issues with women's hormonal cycles with extended fasting, right? And I definitely would not fast if I was pregnant. I would eat a good diet if I was pregnant. So if you're planning to become pregnant or you are, I would probably not fast too much. Maybe, a short fast, with a pretty big time window of eating, but definitely not long periods of time. And lastly, number 4, it's kind of 4 and 5 are kind of a mixture actually, so I just combined them. But extended fasts, these 24 hours plus, their benefit, from what I have read, is maybe not that much more compared to a normal time slot fast. I have seen so many influencers, so many big famous people, not like physically big like fat, but like, social media following or whatever, have done these super long fasts and they drink that bone broth. It's always bone broth they're drinking, bro. They're always drinking the bone broth, or they're taking their little supplements that are always sponsored, and they're doing these really long fasts. I am not against these really long fasts, but you have to understand the risks behind it. Glucose is your body's main source of energy, right? And it is your brain's most important source of energy. So if you cut off glucose, you are cutting off your brain's main energy source. And you have to understand the risks that come along with that. You have the potential for dizziness, feel like you're going to pass out, but also disordered patterns, worse decision making, a lot of fatigue, and those can affect your life in different ways. Now, I'm not against, like I said, I'm not against the super long fast. I think fasting is, oh, I'm giving away my bias here, but I think fasting is great. I think the longer fasts can be really good too if they're done correctly and you're doing these long fasts safely with a doctor. You need a medical professional to do these long fasts, because someone with a lot more degrees and a lot more IQ, a lot higher. See, I just proved my point, right? I'm stupid. Someone with a bigger IQ level than me, higher, needs to keep an eye on you for these longer fasts. And by the longer fasts, I mean the week long fasts where you're only, drinking the water and electrolytes or whatever. Need someone to keep an eye on you for those. So, what does not break your fast? If your main goal is the metabolic and insulin benefits, our goal is to not increase our insulin levels at all, to keep us in the fat burning state. So, water, obviously, black coffee, plain tea like green tea, black tea, herbal tea, sparkling water as well will not break your fast, and any electrolytes that have no sugar or carbs. A lot of the electrolyte powders you'll see, like Liquid IV or Element, they have sugar and carbs, and those are going to create an insulin response, and your body will start burning that glucose from that packet or electrolytes, and you will not be in the fasted state anymore. Some gray zone things will be like coffee with like some cream or a little bit of milk, sugar-free gum or mints have a pretty minimal insulin impact, but it's still there. And diet soda and artificial sweeteners. One of the most debated ones I've seen, I still have a hard time finding studies that prove either it does or it doesn't mess with your fasted state. I personally don't drink diet soda and expect to stay fasted. If I want like a sparkly carbonated drink and I want to be fasted, I'm going to drink sparkling water. The things that will break your fast will be basically anything with calories or a large amount of calories. Food, milk, cream, sugar, honey, fruit juice, regular soda, sports drinks, protein shakes, BCAAs with calories, alcohol, right? Those are all things that are going to pull you out of that fasted state. They're going to raise your insulin. Your body's going to start using the glucose from those things you just ate to supply energy. All right, to summarize everything, does fasting work? Is it the GOAT? Yes and no, just like most things. Most things are, especially when it comes to fitness and health, are in this gray zone where it's yes and no and it depends on the person. And I get kind of annoyed with that answer, but it's true for fasting. So is fasting the GOAT? I would say yes for the most part. I do the 18-6 fasting rule, and I like to think it helps with my fasting blood sugar levels, and I like to think it helps me not get diabetes or slow the progression of it in the future and whatnot. I also use fasting a lot when I'm trying to cut, but I don't really change how I fast. I'll sometimes skip lunch and do like the 1 meal a day thing, but I always try to eat something every day. I don't do these day-long fasts or these super long fasts. I kind of want to try one. I do want to try like a 3-day fast, but at the point in my life I am right now, I can't really do one. So maybe I'll do one in the future. If you're looking for some sort of fat loss solution, fasting can help. It's not going to be the end all be all. That's still going to be exercise and walking and your calorie deficit. And if you have any eating disorders, mental disorders, maybe I would stick away from fasting. Although there is like this thing with like seizures and being in fasting and stuff. I don't know anything about that. I never researched it. I just saw it somewhere on Instagram. But overall, guys, try fasting out. I encourage you to try it at least, see how you react to it, see how your body does. And who knows, maybe you will like skipping breakfast, or maybe you'll like eating earlier in the day and not having a late dinner. That's another thing too. Try and eat dinner earlier in the day. Give your body more time to digest before you go and lay down in bed. And that's all I got for you guys. I encourage you to try fasting. That's really the takeaway of this video. See if you like it or not. Get a doctor, talk to a healthcare professional. I am not a healthcare professional. I am not a doctor. Don't take my advice. Something like that. And overall, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you got to the end of this video, I'm very surprised because I have one other video and I have like 6 subscribers. So if you did this, watch the whole video, you are the GOAT. You're more of a GOAT than fasting is. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I don't like long outros. I'll see you in the next video.